I never thought I'd be telling my story like this, but when my own wife's casual laughter revealed a plan to utterly destroy my life, I knew I couldn't keep it to myself. It was a betrayal so cold, so calculated, it still makes my blood run cold just thinking about it. My name is Luke, and trust me, I didn't get handed anything in life. Every single thing I have, I built from the ground up. We're talking years of grinding, of sacrificing, of hitting rock bottom and climbing right back out. There was no safety net, no rich parents to sweep in if things went sideways. It was just me, a beat-up laptop, and an idea that somehow exploded into something way bigger than I ever imagined. I started my tech company in my mid-20s. It wasn't some overnight success story you read about. 4 years, I practically lived on caffeine and 16-hour days, barely making rent in a tiny apartment. There were so many times I wanted to quit, when it felt like I was pouring everything into a dream that just wasn't going to happen. But I kept pushing. Eventually, the hard work paid off. One good deal led to another, and before I knew it, my company was taking off. By the time I hit 30, I was a millionaire. Not billionaire rich, but comfortably wealthy. I could afford a killer house, a luxury car, and jet off on vacations whenever I wanted. But you know what? All that money didn't change me. I still preferred hoodies to suits. I still ate at the same local diners. My inner circle was still the same few friends who knew me before the money, who knew the real me. That's when Emily walked into my life. She was stunning, the kind of woman who stopped conversations when she entered a room. But more than her looks, she was incredibly charming. She had this way of making you feel like you were the most interesting person on the planet when she talked to you. We met at some fancy charity gala I was dragged to by a friend, definitely not my usual scene. She approached me first, striking up a conversation about my company. At the time, I genuinely thought she was interested. Looking back now, the signs were blinking red, practically screaming at me. She laughed at all my jokes, even the terrible ones. She made sure to casually drop comments about how she wasn't like other women who cared about money. And man, did things move fast. We went from dating to engaged in less than a year. I'm not going to lie, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Here was this beautiful, smart, fun woman who seemed to love me, not my bank account. My friends tried to warn me to slow down, but I was completely swept away. We got married 6 months ago. For the first few months, everything seemed fine. Sure, there were little red flags. She never really showed interest in my work once we were together. A month after the wedding, she quit her job, saying she wanted to focus on our life together. Then the spending started. Designer bags. Expensive spa days. Girls' trips out of town with her friends. When I gently suggested maybe easing up a bit on the spending, she'd get upset, asking, "What's the point of having money if we don't enjoy it?" I brushed it off. I desperately wanted to believe she loved me. I wanted to believe I wasn't just her personal ATM. Then came last Friday. The day everything shattered. I was supposed to be out of town for a business meeting, a last-minute trip that would take me the whole weekend. Emily knew I was gone, so she'd made plans for one of her regular girls' nights, expensive drinks, gossiping about people they barely knew. But the meeting got canceled. I decided not to text her, just to head home and surprise her. I pulled into the driveway around 8 p.m. The house was quiet. As I walked inside, though, I heard voices coming from the living room. At first, I figured she had a few friends over. But as I got closer, I realized she was on the phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the second I heard my name, I froze. I will never forget what I heard next. Emily let out this laugh, one of those fake, high-pitched laughs she always used when she was showing off. And then she said, "Oh please. Luke's just a temporary fix. Once I have his money, I'm gone." The air just sucked right out of the room. She kept talking, completely oblivious I was standing mere feet away. "No, seriously, you really think I'd stay with him if he wasn't rich? He's not my type at all. But hey, Might as well enjoy the ride while it lasts, right? Her friend laughed on the other end. Then Emily said something that made my stomach drop even further. I give it a year. Maybe less. By then, I'll have enough saved up to make a clean break. And let's be real, divorce means I'll be set for life. I just stood there. Frozen. My own wife. The woman I thought I'd spend my life with. She was openly admitting she was using me. That she never loved me. That I was nothing more than a bank account to her. My hand, shaking uncontrollably, went into my pocket. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Because if she thought she was about to play me for a fool, she had another thing coming. I stood there for a moment, just staring at my phone as Emily's words echoed in my head. She was planning to take me for everything I was worth, and I couldn't believe I'd been blind for so long. It hurt. But more than that, it ignited a fire in me. I was so angry, my fingers nearly buckled as I slipped my phone back into my pocket. But I wasn't going to let her see that. No way. I couldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart, not when I'd finally realized what kind of person she really was. I took a deep breath, pushed my emotions down, and walked back into the living room. Emily and her friend were still chatting, a little more quietly now. The moment I entered, the conversation stopped. They all turned to me with a mix of smiles and slightly nervous glances. Emily's smile was the widest, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hey, babe," she said, trying to sound casual. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I replied, keeping my voice completely level. "Just needed to grab something from the office." I looked around at the group, offering a polite smile. "I'll be upstairs if you need me." Emily nodded, her smile plastered on her face. "Okay, I'll be up to join you later." But I didn't miss the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. I ignored the unsettling feeling creeping in and gave a nonchalant wave before heading upstairs to my study. I tried to tell myself to stay calm, not to rush anything. But the tension was unbearable. Once inside, I leaned against my desk, breathing deeply, trying to collect my thoughts. Emily's conversation was fresh in my mind, but the weight of what I just learned made it hard to focus. I needed to act, but not impulsively. I had to be careful with my next steps. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to my lawyer's contact. I'd been through enough business deals to know that when you're dealing with something this serious, you act quickly and with precision. I needed his advice to make sure I did everything by the book. I hit the send button, firing off a quick message. "We need to talk. Get back to me ASAP. I'm available tonight." Then I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen, waiting for the reply. Minutes passed. Then an hour. I checked the time again. Still nothing. The itch of impatience started to creep in. How long did it take to read a text and send a response? I glanced at the screen again. Nothing. My gut told me my lawyer was probably slammed, but I hated waiting, especially with this hanging over my head. It was another half hour before I heard the ping of a new message. My heart skipped a beat as I checked my phone. It wasn't the response I was hoping for. The message came from my lawyer's office, not him directly. It said, "Sorry for the delay, Luke. Your lawyer will be able to meet with you first thing tomorrow morning. We'll review your case then." "Tomorrow morning," I muttered, letting out a frustrated sigh. There was nothing I could do to change it. The waiting was killing me, but I had to respect the process. I couldn't rush things, especially not when I was so close to securing everything. I put the phone down and took another deep breath. Emily would still be downstairs, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. I wasn't about to give away my next move just yet. She had no idea how much I knew, and I was going to let her enjoy her little game for just a little bit longer. I spent the next few hours in my study, scrolling through legal documents, reviewing the prenup we'd signed years ago. That had been my biggest safeguard all along, and now it was going to be the key to shutting down her plans. If there was anything I'd learned from building my wealth, it was that you always protect your assets first. Whether that meant investments, property, or, apparently, marriage. Time crawled by. I could hear Emily's footsteps upstairs as she got ready for bed. Her friends had left by then, so I figured she'd try to check on me soon. Then a soft knock at the door. "Luke." It was her voice again, soft, careful. "Can we talk?" I didn't jump up immediately. Instead, I took a moment, sitting back in my chair, composing myself. Finally, I stood and walked toward the door. I opened it, giving nothing away. I had to play this right. "Hey," I greeted her coolly, keeping my expression as neutral as possible. "What's up?" She stood there in the doorway, wearing one of my old shirts, her hair still damp from the shower. I noticed her eyes were slightly red. "I just thought we could relax tonight, maybe catch up on some shows or something," she said, her voice soft, almost pleading. "I feel like we haven't had any time together lately." I looked her over, trying not to show any emotion. "Sure, sounds good," I said. "But I've got a lot of work I need to finish." "Rain check." Her smile faltered for just a second, but she recovered quickly. "Of course. I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. You've been acting a little distant lately." I nodded, giving her a tight smile. "I'm fine. Just been busy. I'll be downstairs soon." She nodded slowly, clearly wanting to say more but holding back. Instead, she gave me a soft, forced smile before turning and walking back down the hallway. I didn't move for a moment, just staring at the closed door. My chest tightened, a mix of anger, frustration, and something else I couldn't quite name. It was hard to look at her and still see the woman I had married. But that was the game now, wasn't it? She was playing me for a fool, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Tomorrow, things would change. But tonight I had to wait. The next morning felt like an eternity to arrive. I had barely slept, tossing and turning. Emily's smirk burned into my mind. How confident she had been. How she thought she had me all figured out. That was the part that stuck with me. She didn't know I'd figured her out. By the time the sun was up, I was pacing my study, reviewing everything again, the prenup, the lawyer, the steps I had to take to make sure everything went smoothly. I wasn't going to give Emily a chance to ruin me. She wouldn't even see it coming. I grabbed a quick breakfast, trying to push the nerves away, but they were still there, fluttering in my stomach. The last thing I wanted was to go through with this. Divorce is messy, no matter how justified you are. But this was different. She had crossed a line. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into giving her everything. When I finally arrived at my lawyer's office, I was greeted by his assistant, a friendly but no-nonsense woman who quickly ushered me into the meeting room. Mark, my lawyer, was already there, flipping through a stack of papers. "Luke, good to see you again," he said, offering a handshake. "Thanks for coming in on short notice. I know this isn't the easiest situation." I sat down, leaning forward. "You have no idea," I told him. "I need your help with something important." Mark's eyes narrowed in concern as he folded his hands. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. It felt strange, even after everything, to talk about my personal life in front of someone else. But I had no choice. "My wife, Emily," I began, the words feeling heavy. "I think she's been planning to leave me once she gets everything she wants. She's been talking about taking me for my money, and I overheard her saying she's only with me for the financial gain." Mark raised an eyebrow, his expression shifting to one of caution. "That's a serious accusation, Luke. Do you have anything to back this up?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I recorded part of the conversation. She was talking to one of her friends about how she's going to get everything from me when the time comes. She thought I wasn't around. Mark leaned back in his chair, nodding slowly. "I understand. I'll take a look at the recording in a minute, but let's talk about the specifics. You mentioned a prenup earlier. Do you have it with you?" I reached into my bag and handed over the prenup papers, feeling a small sense of relief that everything was already in place. The prenup had been something I'd insisted on, even when Emily wasn't happy about it. She had called me paranoid at the time. I guess she was right about me being paranoid, except I wasn't paranoid about her cheating, I was paranoid about her greed. Mark skimmed over the prenup, nodding as he read through it. This is solid. You're protected. If what you say is true, she's not going to get any of your assets, and she might even owe you in the end. But the situation is delicate. We'll have to proceed carefully. I could feel my stomach tighten. This was real now. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. I had the evidence. I had the legal protection. I had the strength to do what needed to be done. But it still didn't make it any easier. After a few more minutes of talking strategy, Mark handed me a set of divorce papers. These are ready to go. You can serve them at any time, but I suggest waiting for the right moment. If you want to catch her off guard and ensure she doesn't make a scene, you'll need to do this at the right time. I took the papers from him, feeling the weight of them in my hands. It was like holding a ticket to a new life, one that didn't involve manipulation or deceit. This was the moment of truth. I'll give her the papers when the time is right, I said quietly, making sure my voice didn't waver. But I need to make sure everything is in place first. I don't want her to get away with anything. Mark gave me a reassuring smile. You've got everything you need. Just make sure you stay calm and collected when you serve the papers. It's going to be emotional, but you're in control. I nodded, standing up. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate all your help. No problem, Luke. Keep me posted if anything changes. We'll make sure this is as clean as possible. I left the office, the papers safely tucked in my bag. My mind raced as I drove back home. I couldn't believe this was really happening. I was about to confront Emily, about to end a chapter of my life I'd never imagined ending. But I had to do it. I had to stand my ground. When I got home, the house was eerily quiet. Emily's car was in the driveway, but I didn't hear any sounds from inside. I took a moment to compose myself before walking in, making sure my expression was calm and neutral. I could hear her moving around upstairs, probably getting ready for the day. I paused for a second, then walked into the living room. I took a deep breath and sat on the couch, tapping my fingers on the armrest as I waited. My heart was racing, but I kept telling myself to stay calm. This was it. The moment I had been preparing for. The moment when I would stop pretending. Stop playing her game. A few minutes passed before Emily came down the stairs, her usual bright smile on her face. Hey, babe, good morning. How'd your meeting go? I looked at her, my heart pounding, but I didn't let her see it. I gave her a small smile, the kind that didn't reach my eyes. It went fine. I need to talk to you about something, though. Her expression faltered for just a second, but she quickly recovered. Of course, what's up? I reached into my bag and pulled out the divorce papers, sliding them across the coffee table toward her. I know what you've been planning, Emily. I overheard everything. The games are over. Her smile disappeared as she stared at the papers. For a moment, there was silence, thick and suffocating. She reached for the papers slowly, her fingers trembling just slightly. I leaned back, watching her carefully, my mind already racing through what would come next. The ball was in her court now. But I didn't think she was prepared for this. Not at all. She stared at the divorce papers for what felt like an eternity. Her eyes flickered between the papers and me, a mix of disbelief and confusion flashing in her expression. It was as if she couldn't quite process what was happening. Finally, her hand shot out to grab the papers, her fingers trembling as she picked them up, glancing at the top. The color drained from her face when she saw the heading, Petition for Divorce. What is this? She asked, her voice coming out shaky, though she quickly tried to mask it with an irritated tone. Luke, this isn't funny. You're being ridiculous. I didn't respond, letting her squirm. She needed to fully process this. She needed to see the reality of what I had done. She flipped through the papers, her face flushing as she saw the terms. Her eyes widened when she reached the part about the prenup, where it was clearly stated that I was entitled to the majority of our shared assets due to her breach of trust. She stood up abruptly, pacing the room as she clutched the papers in her hands. Her voice began to rise, shaky at first, but gaining strength with every word. "You can't be serious, Luke. This is insane. We've been together for 4 years. You can't just throw everything away like this." "I'm not throwing anything away," I said calmly, standing up and crossing my arms. "But you've been planning this for a while, haven't you? Using me, pretending to be someone you're not, all while you worked your way into my life, my bank account. And now you think you're entitled to everything I've worked for?" She opened her mouth to speak, but then she closed it again, her hands fidgeting with the edge of the papers. She was panicking now, and I could see her mind scrambling for some excuse or way to explain her actions. "No," she said after a long pause, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're making a mistake, Luke. I wasn't using you. I love you. I've always loved you. Please." Her voice cracked slightly as she took a step toward me, her expression pleading. "Please, let's talk about this. We can work things out, I swear. I was just stressed. This isn't what I meant." I wasn't moved. The pleading, the sudden change in tone. This was the exact manipulation I'd been expecting, the exact kind of thing I had known would happen once I called her out. She had no idea that I wasn't just some naive fool. I'd seen it all in her eyes the night I overheard her. "I'm not interested in hearing your excuses, Emily," I said flatly. "I heard what you said to your friends. You thought I wasn't listening. Thought you could play me. Well, you were wrong. I knew for a while. And this," I motioned to the papers, "this is the result." Her face twisted in confusion, then anger, as she stomped her foot in frustration. "You think I'm some gold digger?" Her voice broke as she shouted. "You think I'm just using you for your money? How dare you?" I remained calm, watching her rage as she circled the living room. This was the part where she'd try to turn the tables, where she'd try to make me feel guilty or question my decision. But I wasn't going to fall for it. "Do you remember that conversation you had last night when I wasn't home?" I asked, finally breaking my silence. Her face immediately paled. What are you talking about?" I leaned forward, watching her carefully. "The one where you told your friend that once you got my money, you'd leave me? How I was just a stepping stone to you, and once the wedding was paid for, you'd be done with me." Her eyes widened, her lips trembling as she took a step back. She looked like a deer caught in headlights, her earlier bravado evaporating in an instant. "You were listening? You were spying on me?" Her voice rose in disbelief. "I wasn't spying on you, Emily," I replied, my tone cold now. "I just wasn't as oblivious as you thought I was. And unlike you, I don't make decisions based on lies." She stood frozen for a moment, as if trying to process everything. Then, in a desperate attempt to save face, she tried to laugh it off. But it sounded hollow and forced. "Oh, come on, Luke, this is ridiculous. You know I was just joking around, right? It was nothing serious. You can't just throw our whole relationship away over a stupid conversation. You've been overreacting to everything." I didn't laugh. I didn't flinch. I wasn't going to let her deflect anymore. "You're right about one thing. You were joking around," I said. "But the joke's on you. You really thought you could manipulate me and get away with it, didn't you? But I'm not the one who's going to walk away from this with nothing." Her face twisted in frustration as she took a few steps toward me, suddenly putting on a false smile. "Look, please. I can't lose you. We've built so much together. You can't just walk away from everything we've created. Please, let's not do this." I finally stood up, my eyes narrowing. "You had your chance, Emily. This is over." Her expression shifted to something colder, more calculating as she realized what I meant. "You think this is over? You really think I'm just going to let you keep everything? You have no idea who you're dealing with, Luke. You signed that prenup, Yes, but you think I don't know how to fight back? You think I won't take you to the cleaners in this divorce? She smirked as if she had won already. I'll get my money one way or another, don't think I won't. I just smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction build up inside me. That's where you're wrong. You won't get a cent from me. Not a penny more than what you deserve. I reached into my bag and pulled out the prenup papers again. I know the terms better than you do, and I'm not going to back down. The moment her eyes scanned the document, her smirk faded, replaced by pure panic. She took a few steps back, her mind racing as the reality of what was happening hit her like a ton of bricks. Do you think I can't find a way around this? She spat, her voice cracking now with anger. You think I'm just going to let you win? I shook my head. I don't need to win, Emily. I just need to make sure you don't get away with it. With that, I turned and walked out of the room, not giving her a chance to respond. I could hear her shouting behind me, but I didn't care. The worst was over. I had everything in place. She wasn't going to get away with it. She had already lost. It's been a few months since that day, and honestly, it's surreal to look back at it all. The whole process took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of emotional strain. But I knew I was doing the right thing. The day I handed Emily those divorce papers, everything shifted. I wasn't just walking away from a failed marriage. I was walking away from a manipulation I had been blind to for far too long. The divorce itself was a bit of a mess, as expected. Emily fought tooth and nail, trying to squeeze as much money as possible out of me, using every trick in the book. But the prenup was airtight. She couldn't touch anything I had worked for. It didn't stop her from trying. The drama was endless. Phone calls, emails, late-night texts begging me to reconsider, threats of ruining my reputation, and even her lawyer making some baseless accusations. But I had prepared myself for all of that. I didn't buckle under the pressure. Eventually, Emily realized she was getting nowhere. The court granted the divorce in my favor. I got to keep everything that mattered to me, my house, my business, my assets. And she got her freedom. But it wasn't quite the fairy tale she expected. I found out later that she tried to spin the narrative to her friends and family, claiming that I was the one who didn't care, that I was cold and controlling. But none of them believed her for long. My close friends knew what happened, and the people who knew her best could see right through her. There were no tears of sympathy from anyone. Everyone just kind of moved on. I can't say I was surprised. I'd heard those same friends laugh about how she was just waiting for the right time to get out while pretending to be the perfect wife. As for her, well, I don't think she's fully recovered. There were rumors about her bouncing from one guy to another, trying to latch onto a new target. But honestly, I don't keep track of her anymore. She's not my problem. Every so often, I hear from her mom, who still occasionally reaches out, wondering if I'll take her back or give her a second chance. But I never respond. The truth is, I'm happier now than I've ever been. I finally have the peace I always wanted. I've been living my best life. I've had more time to focus on my business and travel the world, checking off things from my bucket list that I'd put off for far too long. I've met new people, real friends, people who actually care about me, not what I can offer them. I've even started dating again, but this time I'm smarter about it. No more pretending. I'm not settling for anyone who thinks they can take advantage of me. And the best part? I don't have to worry about anyone pretending to love me for my money anymore. I can finally relax and enjoy my life without the constant weight of manipulation hanging over me. It's amazing how much lighter life feels without that toxic cloud following me around. I'm not angry anymore either. I'm just grateful. Grateful that I saw through the lies before it was too late. Grateful that I had the strength to walk away. The moral of my story? Never let anyone take advantage of you, no matter how good they make you think they are. You'll always be worth more than their manipulative schemes. And if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, don't be afraid to take control of your life. Trust your instincts. Get out before it's too late. Remember, you deserve better. I'll be just fine, and I'm living proof that sometimes, things really do get better after you walk away from the toxic people who try to bring you down.